guys, welcome to GDX Academy, and our topic for today is still on ledger, but we'll be dealing with practical aspect. That is, I call it accounting process. That is the how we record transactions from subsidiary book to our trial balance. Now, we won't be making use of subsidiary book because the requirement in this my question demand for from ledger towards trial balance directly. So yeah, this question is being generated from ICAN Insight ATSWA Basic Accounting Process System exam March 2021 diet question 6 to be precise. Now, so the question goes thus: Adegboyega Kofoshi is a graduate with a degree in electrical and electronic engineering elect. During his youth service, he had a savings of 999,000 naira from his service year allowance from his parents and the company where he served. After the youth service, he started a retail business, Adegboyega Kofoshi Enterprises, selling household electrical equipment. So you have to take note of what he's doing for his business. Let me come again. After the youth service, he started a retail business. And what does it deal with? What does the business entails? Household electrical equipment. We'll make use of this information later on. He transferred his car worth 1,440,000 for the use of the business. The car was a gift from his parents. He borrowed 198,000 naira from his friend. All these were used for the business. During the month of December 2019, he had the following transaction, in which is displayed on your screen. Now, our requirement: you are required to post the transaction into the ledgers. That's requirement 1. And we are also required to extract a trial balance as at 31st December 2019. Alright, so whenever you are given a question like this, you need to watch out for the key items. So now, in our previous class, I explained that we have 4 types of ledger: sales ledger, purchases ledger, private ledger, and what? General ledger. Alright, so let's start with this. Whenever you are given a question like this, it is advisable that you start with what? Cash book ledger, because cash book is a subsidiary book and is also what? A ledger. So cash book is the only book that is a subsidiary book and a ledger. Alright, so let's get our format ready so that we can start. Now, how do we get the capital or our balance brought forward in this question? Alright, this is how we do it. Remember, business entity concept. The business is treated as a separate entity from the owner. Adegboyega now we'll be preparing our cash book. This. So I will advise you guys to be very fast, and you're going to have to make use of the pause button a lot in this. Alright, so now to get our balance brought forward, it will be the sum of, let's do a quick workings. Our balance brought forward will be the sum of 990,000, that is the savings, plus the worth of his car, because he transferred his car worth 1.44 million for the use of the business. So we are going to add this. Then we also got the information that he borrowed 198,000 for his business. So everything you total 1,188,000 naira. So this will be his balance brought forward. So we have 1,188,000 naira. Now that's for December 1st, but I decided to omit it because of space and the likes. Now on the 3rd of December, he purchased electrical equipment from Shuku Limited on credit. So that's the credit transaction. It won't appear in our cash book. That transaction falls under our purchase ledger. Then the next one, the same December 3, the equipment carriage expenses to the warehouse by cash, 49,368. So these are carriage inward. I'm gonna short it because of the space. Carriage inward, 49,368. Then next, we've got the sold goods on credit. That's the credit transaction. December 8, sold goods for cash. So that's our cash sales. How much? That's 78,840. 78,840. Then the next transaction, paid general expenses by cash, 48,834. So I'm going to call it general expenses. How much? 48,834. Then the next item that we have is purchase electrical items on credit from Shuku Limited again. That's the credit transaction. Adelaide Venture repaired the motor car on credit. That's also a credit transaction. Paid to Shuku account. Paid to Shuku on account 502,500. So Shuku is a trade receivable. How much? 502,500. Then the next transaction we have here is Johnson and Co. paid cash. So Johnson and Co. is a what? Is a receivables. Looking at the transaction on the December 6th, we had sold goods to him initially. So he paid us 375,000 naira cash. So Johnson and Co. Johnson and Co. is 375,000. Now December 25th, he paid salaries and wages. Salary and wages. How much? That's 233. 233,874. Next, rent and rate. The same day, rent and rate. Rent and rate, 18,000. Then sold electrical wire on credit to Ajibande on, that's on the 27th. So this is all that we have on what? Our cash book. You get. Now we calculate the total on our debit and calculate on the total on our credit. Then we use it to get our balance carried down. If our looking at this is a single column cash book, so most likely we will have our balance on what? Credit side. I'm going to explain this when we get to cash book as a topic, but for now, our balance carried down. So yeah, after doing the calculations, the total here will give us 1,641,840. 641,840. Then the sum of this, the total of this, the difference between the total of this and our total here will give us 789,264. Yeah, So having been done with our cash book, then we can go back to create what? Our capital account. We can go back to create our capital account. So I used to advise that whenever you are solving a question like this, you look at all the transactions about 2 to 3 times to ensure that you did not omit anything from the book. To ensure you did not omit anything from the book. So I'm going to clean this place and use it to create other ledgers before I get back here to clean. So now let's create our capital account. Our credit, our debit, then our currency sign is very important. How do we know what we are going to put in as our capital account? Let me quickly make use of this place as our workings. Remember, the goal is for you to understand how you will be posting your transaction. Note, for every debit entry there must be a corresponding credit entry. Part of our capital is in this our balance box for. The reason I use balance box for is because our loan has been included, the loan of 198,000 naira. So if we are to omit our loan from this, then we'll be left with 1.44 million plus 990,000 naira, because our loan is not part of our capital. Loan is the other liability. Therefore, our total will be, so let's do it this way, because in part of this, what did you introduce? Introduce cash. So to make this easier, we can just write it as our balance what? Balance brought forward as the sum of this. So that will give us 2.43 million, 2,430,000. Alright, so that's for our capital. Then let's create another account for our motor vehicle. I'm following the structure of the question. So let's create motor vehicle or motor car account. Let's call it motor vehicle. 1.44 million. Our motor vehicle falls under an asset. Alright, so there's nothing that relates to motor vehicle for the year, so we round it up here. Next, looking at the question, the next thing in line is to open our loan account. Loan account. Loan being a liability, we have a credit balance. So this is where our balance brought forward is going to appear on. And that's just what 198. That's the end for loan for this period. So you bring our balance box down to this place. The next in line is to open what? Purchases account. So in this scenario, I would implore you guys to take a screenshot of this before we move on to the next. Take a screenshot of what we are doing over here. Then purchases account is the next in line. Purchases account. So this falls under what? General ledger. Purchases account is not the same as purchases laybook. So purchase account falls under what? General ledger. So yeah, December 3. December 3. We bought goods from Shuku. So let's label it Shuku. How much? 540,000 naira. When else did we buy goods from Shuku again? December 15. We bought additional. Now, if you look at it, they said bought electrical equipment. You might be tempted to think it is an asset. No, it is not an asset because Adedboyega Kofoshi Limited deals with electrical equipment. That's what they buy and sell. Therefore, it is an inventory to them, not an asset. Alright, so Shuku, once more, we patronize you. How much? That's 180,000. So that's all that they bought from Shuku. So the total is 720,000. This will be our balance carried down. Then, before I proceed, to avoid mistake, it's better to what? Create Shuku's account immediately. So who is Shuku? Shuku is a what? Trade payable, formerly known as creditor. Shuku's account. Your Naira sign is very important. So purchases. There is no any return in the question. Therefore, now before we move, on the 20th of December 2019, we paid Shuku 502,000 naira. So that's cash. That's the corresponding entry of our cash book. If you rewind the video, you will see where we paid Shuku 502,500 naira as cash. So you have to be careful when dealing with this question. Then we can now have our balance what? Carried down. Balance carried down. Then the difference between these two is going to be 217,500. So we can have our 720 as our total. So you need to make sure that for every item on the transaction, for every line transaction, you must fulfill the double entry principle. That is, wherever you debit the first one, you must credit the corresponding account. You understand? Therefore, we are done with Shuku now. That's the reason I did this successfully. Then we can now move to what? Carriage inward account. That is in our cash book. In our cash book, there's an account where we did carriage inward account, credit, debit. So carriage inward is an expenses, falls under general ledger. It is on the credit side in the cash book, so the corresponding entry will be here, which will be our cash. How much did we spend? 49,368. 49,368, and there's nothing more. So this will be our balance carried down. 49,368. Remember, you take your balance carry down as your balance burst down in the next period. The next thing is what? Our sales. Our sales account. Alright, our currency sign. Yeah. So now to get our sales account, like I said, you always go back to so yeah, sales account. So on the 6th of December, Johnson and Co. Johnson and Co. bought goods worth 570,000 naira. Then we also sold goods on cash on the 8th of December. So we got cash sales of 78,840. Then on the 27th, Ajibandele 204,000 naira. So if you sum this up, it will give us 852,840. So here will be our balance what carried down 852,840. So to avoid skipping any transaction, let us quickly open accounts for these two. We already have one for cash already. There's a corresponding entry for this, but there is no corresponding entry for these two. So to save us time, let us quickly Johnson and Co account. Let's quickly do that without wasting time. So the corresponding entry here, because Johnson is what our receivables. So that's sales 570. Note that during one of our transactions, Johnson paid us a cash. So the corresponding entry of 375,000 naira. 375 naira. So that's going to reduce his debt. Therefore, our balance carried down is what 195,000. So this will give us 5. Note, it is our balance carried down that we are going to transfer to our trial balance, not the total. So take note of that. Now, without wasting much time, let us open account for Ajibandele so that we don't forget to do a corresponding entry for it. So we are done with this. Let's open account for Ajibandele. So sales of 204,000 naira. So now, having done that successfully, we can move to the next item, and that's our general expenses. That's on our cash book. So general expenses. Alright. So we have our cash of 48,834. So that's all on our general expenses. Then we have motor vehicle repairs. Now, motor vehicle repairs is not the same thing as motor vehicle account. Motor vehicle account is an asset, while motor vehicle repair is an expenses. So they are different. If you should mix them up, then you'll be committing error of what principle, in which we've done in the past. You can check our playlist and you see the video on error. So motor vehicle repairs, we did we did that on credit from Adelaide Ventures of 32,556. Next is salaries and wages. Salaries and wages. You put your currency sign, which is very necessary. No matter how in a hurry you are, you make sure you put the currency sign. So that was on the 25th of December. Cash 233,874. 233,874. Because that's all that has to do with salaries and wages for the period. Then next, don't be tempted to forget. So I should have done this, yeah. Adelaide, let's do it immediately so we don't forget. Adelaide account. So you have to be very careful with this transaction. Always make sure you what? Always make sure you open the corresponding entry before you move on to the next. So avoid mistakes. So what is the issue that we have with Adelaide? Adelaide is a creditor because we offer the service, receive the service from him on credit. So that's motor vehicle. I'm going to show this. Motor vehicle repairs 32,556. 32. So this will be our balance carried down. Then next, we can now move towards so rent and rate is an expenses. So automatically it's having a debit balance. But that shouldn't be your business. It is the corresponding entry that matters. Alright. So yeah, we have our cash. Now how much was our rent and rate? 18,000 naira. So alright, we are done with all our ledger accounts. You understand? So we are done with our ledger account. Then we can now transfer this to our trial balance. But before I do that, I don't here is the clue. Let me put this in a simple form. I already explained it. We have what we call due clip or die clip, whatever I call it in our previous video. But this is another way, especially when you are posting from your ledger. If if you observe, I deliberately did it this way. Some I did not bring our balance box down, although it is necessary, but due to time constraints, because I'm trying to be more realistic with you as a student. You might not have time to be doing our balance box down all the time for every transaction, or you might probably forget. So this is what you do. For example, let me start with this. This is Ajibandi. No, I did not label it, whether it is an expenses, whether it is a receivables or a payable. But how do I know? I know this is a receivables. Apart from the fact that there is looking at where the balance brought down is, I could tell that okay, this is what a receivables. Now that aside, whether you know whether it is receivables or not. So far it is on the debit side and it is having balance bust down, then you put it on the debit side of your trial balance. Now let me still use the same illustration. Let's assume I forgot to put our balance bust down. Let's assume this is what, or this is where I stopped. If it is balance carried down, then it is the corresponding that I'll be putting in my trial balance. So if it is balance carried down here, then in my trial balance is going to be where? On the debit side. Let me pick another random example. This. So my motor vehicle repairs account in my trial balance is not going to be on the credit, it's going to be on the what? Debit side, because if I'm to bring this down, it's going to be my what? My balance what? Brought down. So this is how it will look like. Also take a picture of this or screenshot it, or you write it down in your notes. Then we can move to what? To trial balance and ensure that we do this starting from our cash book. Our balance brought down was 789,264. 789,264. That's our balance carried down on the credit. It's coming here. Then next is our capital, which is 2.43 million. Then the next is our motor vehicle. Motor vehicle is 1.44 million. Then next is what? Loan. You can always press pause and reverse. You observe that we are following our ledger. Because after our motor vehicle, then loan was the next in line, 198,000. Then the next in line is what? Purchases. Purchases. Purchases was what? 720. That was our balance carried down. Then the next is what? Payables. You can write trade payable. Let me call it Shuku. You can put it in brackets, payables, so as not to make mistake when you are doing your trial balance. What was the balance that we transferred? It was 217. 217 because it's a payable to have a credit balance. 217,500. Then after that is what? We have our carriage inward, which is an expenses carried. Carriage inward, how much? 49,368. Then next is what? Our sales. Our sales is 852,840. 852,840. Then we have Johnson and Co. So you can put it receivables. Receivables, which is going to be on the debit side. That was how much? 195,000. This is our balance carried down. Then what do we have next? We have Ajibandele rather. You have to be careful. Ajibandele. How much? The balance carried down is 204, which is what I'm going to write here. Then we can now put our general expenses. General expenses is 48,834. Then what do we have next? Adelaide, that I wrote here initially. Adelaide. So now who is Adelaide? Adelaide, looking at the balance, okay, is on the credit side. So that's a payable. Payable. Adelaide 332,556. Motor vehicle repair, which is an expenses, 32,556, the same amount. If you observe the trial balance, the ledger account, this was the amount that we got on credit from, that we charged for the service, and this is the same service. So that's the corresponding entrance. It's very obvious. Yeah. So next is salaries and wages. Salaries and wages, 233,874. Then we have rent and rate, which is what, 18. Now if we are to total the sum of our debit side and the total sum of our credit side, then we should have the same thing. If not, then there is a mistake. So totaling this would give us 3,730,896, 3,730,896. Yeah. So yeah, that's all on double entry process. You understand? This is an ICAN exam, March 2021, question 6, question on double entry question. This is just a short and brief question, just for you to understand. Now, before I proceed or round it up, now this is the examiner review. He said the question tests candidates' knowledge on bookkeeping. It tests candidate ability to post business transactions to their respective ledgers. While a trial balance was also expected to be prepared, candidates are advised to practice past question well before sitting for institute further examination. So for him to advise this, it means that they must have performed terribly poor in this particular question, and that's the reason why I decided to look into it, because what they are testing here is your ability to apply double entry principle to this question, and it's a 12.5 mark. So if you are very good at it, it's a very short question. It's just for you to understand what they are asking you for. So understand your double entry principle again, because it is your foundation. This is like the backbone of what, financial accounting, because from this trial balance is what they will make use of in preparing what, our financial statements. And I said it is a statement of profit or loss, another comprehensive income, and our statement of financial position for this level, that is ATSWA. Do you understand? So that's what they are going to test you on. You could still make use of this, or I could make use of this to prepare a financial statement, a simple financial statement without any adjustment, just for you to understand the concept of double entry principle. So if you look at it, your financial statement is being traced. If you are to trace it, it all falls back to what, to double entry. So if you don't know your double entry, you do not know financial accounting. Thank you for staying with us up to this point. Kindly like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that I can get notified whenever we upload our next video. Thank you. See you in our next class.